All right, let's get into it. So this is the new moon in Leo. I guess in a way the tagline for this is it's an invitation to simplicity. So, which is kind of interesting because we tend to complicate things, and chaos and crap that's going on around us can kind of distract us and stuff like that. And basically we need to kind of keep away from some of that stuff, the do not engage, and keep it simple as much as possible. So generally, Leo energy is about the heart, it's about courage, it's about authenticity. Leo is very big energy, they're very drama, they're very grandiose. There's nothing little about this sign. So, but by the same token, they're also about simplicity because they know who they are, and they don't, even though they like the drama and they like to be seen, they also know who they are and don't need to kind of prove it. They don't need to browbeat somebody into proving that they are who they say they are. So during this new moon, one of the things that we need to look at is how we micromanage our situations, our routines, our habits, our relationships, our spiritual practices, the things that we do day to day. And the more we try to control it, the more we lose our grip on it, and the more out of alignment we can get. So that's kind of what's happening at this time, like with this Leo energy. So that's why it's saying kind of go right back down to basics and keep it simple. So there are a couple of influences this time around, as there always seems to be, and I'm always surprised at what the influences are and how they come about. So one is Pluto and Eris. So Pluto is the lord of the underworld, and he is currently in Aquarius, and this sadly is in strong opposition to this new moon. So what that means is that it can stir up like emotional pressure or internal conflict, or a sense that something is weighing heavily on us. It can result in power struggles, help making us feel like out of control, or forcing us, well, I guess it's not really forcing, but we think it's kind of pushing us to push back, in a word, like how things are coming together. So Eris is the goddess of discord and strife. So thank you. She can also add to this tension. She's also known for bringing things to the surface that have been ignored or suppressed. So that can make us feel irritated, impatient, rebellious, especially if we're feeling unheard or disempowered. So if you find that, feelings of tension arise, this is a really good time to just kind of like take a look, take a step back, take a look at what is bringing this on. Like what are we trying to overmanage or micromanage or overindulge in? How can we kind of dial it back and simplify it? So although it causes discomfort, their ultimate goal, and this is Pluto and Eris, their ultimate goal is to help us reclaim our authentic power, not through controlling everything that's around us, but through that quietness, that simplicity, that we can kind of see inside ourselves or look inside ourselves and know that we can, trust what's inside ourselves. It's funny because one of my spiritual teachers, one of the things that she always said, and she said this repeatedly, so these are words I will never forget. We always have to have faith, trust, and allow. 3 very simple things that are incredibly difficult to do. So one of the other factors that's coming in as well is Neptune. So Neptune is the planet of like dreams, higher visions, and it's actually supporting this new moon. So even though we've got this kind of like discord and disharmony, Neptune is coming in and gently trying to like calm the waters. And Neptune is a water planet, by the way. So it kind of tries to help us focus on simplifying things. So last month, if you recall, there was a lot of this water energy. And so water is about emotions, and we were kind of forced to feel things. This time around with Leo is an action sign. It's a fire sign. So everything that we were kind of like trying to go through the flow with, and the emotions that were being brought to the surface, now is the time, a really good time, to kind of like move that stuff forward, to do what we want to do, and to be who we need to be and who we want to be, who we are authentically. So it's actually really powerful time as well, you know. The other thing that's come up, and it's been discussed before, are these outer planets, these big outer planets, all these shifts that are happening. And so in one of the materials I was reading, they call it the big shift of 2025. And I'm sure everybody's heard different things, you know, if you listen to predictions, you know, like psychic predictions, or if you follow any astrology, they all said things are really going to change. There's going to be that huge shift in things in 2025. One of the things being, the last time we were talking about Uranus and Gemini was like, that's about communications and AI and stuff like that. So anyways, now let's add Uranus into this, because Uranus is going into Gemini as well. So basically what that means is we can expect the unexpected. Yay, Uranus. Can't wait. So we are going to be forced to, or we're being asked to act decisively based on our self-awareness and our truth. Because remember, last month was all about the emotions and kind of like figuring out where we were. Now it's about taking that action. So this is going to help us push forward as well with some of these changes. You may also remember last time we talked about that finger of God, that Yod. That was kind of pushing us to look at some of our actual truths as well, and kind of figure out exactly what we need to be focusing on, like truly, not just the outside things or the egoic things that we tend to all focus on, but like on the real stuff that we need to focus on. So just as a matter of interest, the last time Uranus was in Gemini was during World War II. It was also when they figured out how to split the atom and created atomic weaponry, and also atomic energy. So big things, this big shifts, right, that we were talking about. So Neptune, when it's in Aries, and I believe it was just in Aries, so it kind of is asking us to keep our fears in check, because a lot of things were basically fear driven and fear based. There's a lot of fear mongering going on out there. So we were making a lot of decisions based on the ego and those emotions. So they were reactions rather than thinking and reflection and thought. So this is something that we need to consider as well. So with with Pluto in Aquarius and Uranus in Gemini, there's gonna be different thoughts and shifts into how to fix what's wrong. And with Neptune in Aries, it is basically saying we don't want to rush. We don't want to just do, knee-jerk reactions to things. We got to take a step back, stop and think. And that's sort of like, again, if you think about this new moon in Leo, it is kind of saying the same thing. It's like, yeah, don't grip so tightly and try to force certain things or to micromanage. Take a step back and think about what it is at the core that we're looking at. Keep it simple, keep it to its simplest form, and then respond in kind rather than react. So the other yay part about this particular time is we're also in Mercury retrograde, everybody's favorite. We all know how Mercury retrograde affects us. It affects communications, it affects electronics, it affects a lot of things. But again, the real driver behind Mercury retrograde is the Re's, okay? So it wants us to stop. Again, we have this like stop, think, what was it that was said when we were kids, when you're crossing the road or whatever? Stop, look, listen. So kind of like stop and not just react. So stop, slow down, make sure we aren't missing anything, and go through all the Re's. Reflection, refining, reviewing, reevaluation, revisiting, rethinking, even research. These are all things that Mercury retrograde kind of like pushes us to do. It forces us to slow down and to do some of these things. And if you do the Re's, Mercury retrograde isn't actually so bad. It's actually quite helpful. We need sometimes those times to, slow down. And sometimes, as many of you know, when we're doing things too much, we'll end up getting injured. And what is an injury? Except your body saying to you, slow down, stop what you're doing. This is too much. You need to slow down. Mercury retrograde. So with all these things that are kind of like crowding us, don't panic or don't worry about, oh my God, am I making the right decision? What if I get more information later, once you're doing your Re's or whatever? Don't worry about it. Again, stop, relax. There's another one, relax, and just calm down and know that everything goes the way it has to. It's all gonna go the way it needs to, and the way we need it to, the way it has to, and the way that's right. So we're going to think with logic, but we're also going to think with our hearts, and we're not just going to react. We want to respond to things. So you probably remember that lately the signs that have been most affected by the energies, we had Libra, Cancer, Capricorn, and Aries. I am so very glad that they have now handed the torch over to the signs that are going to be more affected now, which are Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius. And the Mercury, and as a double whammy, the Mercury retrograde is going to be affecting those three signs the most, as well as Taurus. So if you're in any of those signs, the Leo, Scorpio, Aquarius, or Taurus, really, really stop and slow down, and don't rush. Don't rush to judgment. Don't rush to action. Don't rush to saying something that you may regret. There's the communication part again, right? So let's look at what is important for each of the signs right now. So in Aries, something new is about to arrive. This new moon is in your 5th house of children, passion projects, and joy. So it could lead to a new family member. So, be careful if you're trying not to actually have a baby. But aside from literal children, it could also be a metaphor for something you care deeply for in your life, what your baby is. It could refer to, a passion project, a talent, a hobby, a goal, even yourself. So give yourself a chance to enjoy taking care of that baby during this cycle, because you will feel more fulfilled when you have something to nurture. So Taurus, one of the signs that's going to be affected the most, you may not be so sure once the new moon in Leo embraces your 4th house of ancestry, personal life, and family. So you're not easily swayed from family obligations and relationships, but this energy may allude to a change in your home life if there are issues surrounding responsibility, authority, patience, and tradition. The next 6 months may lead to slow yet sure adjustments between you and your family members. You may realize that you have to work on your boundaries if you want to lighten your familial relationships. So again, because Taurus is one of these signs that are more affected by the Mercury retrograde, truly take a step back before you kind of fly off the handle. And we all know that with family, because we're closer with family, they're the ones that we kind of let go with the most. So Taurus, little word of caution there, just take a deep breath before you start reacting to things. So Gemini, certain hills are not worth dying on. Pick and choose your battles wisely when the new moon in Leo fortifies your 3rd house of communication, interest, and media literacy. Think about everything that has or hasn't been said leading up to this lunation. You may find that the following 6 months exude this energy. There will be a learning curve as you try to figure out how to strike it with your tone, turf, and timing. You could feel confident in your intellect, opinions, and research until it's time to speak up. Let the new moon in Leo enhance your confidence, which you may need if you have to stand your ground when a conversation turns into a debate. So Leo, one of the signs obviously most affected. No, sorry, Cancer. Cancer's next. Cancer. You are worth your weight in gold. Know your worth. As the new moon in Leo emboldens your 2nd house of value systems, abundance, and personal finances. The last few days leading up to the lunation may have shaken your overall self-confidence, causing you to feel less than. You may not feel like you deserve more than what you've been given, which isn't true. The new moon in Leo will continually remind you that you're deserving of everything you desire and more over the next 6 months. As your confidence grows, so will your abundance. More money could come your way thanks to your newfound self-assurance. You could also feel better about affording luxuries that improve your life. Never doubt that you are worth it. All right, now for Leo. Again, one of the signs most affected by this new moon and Mercury retrograde. So get ready to break free and leave the past behind. It is your season, and the new moon in your sign is pushing you to embrace authenticity entirely. Of course, the metamorphosis from a caterpillar to a butterfly you're meant to be isn't easy. So you'll need to be willing to step up to the challenge and get outside of your comfort zone. This lunation is an opportunity to commit yourself to new goals and bump up your aspirations to things that are bigger and more meaningful. Thanks to the new moon facing off with transformational Pluto in your relationship zone, you may find that the people close to you are serving as an important mirror to your current growth right now, perhaps even triggering you emotionally. Instead of lashing out at any feelings of sensitivity, use these moments as a catalyst to look deeper into your current dogmas, belief, and introspective views. You may find that this leads to a breakthrough that allows you to start a brand new chapter. Virgo, is there something you need to address? Be more mindful of what's driving your actions, because the new moon in Leo will shine a light on your 12th house of unconscious, hidden matters and enigmas. The beginning of this 6-month cycle will illuminate the biases, outlooks, and attitudes affecting your life. Consider this your wake-up call. Changing your tune is a non-negotiable if you want to change other aspects of your life. For example, adopting a more positive attitude could lead to taking steps of faith in work, money, and love that you may not have otherwise taken. Set the intention to work on your mindset by addressing how your unconscious mind drives your conscious efforts and actions. Libra. Dreams demand loyalty and courage. Don't hold back once the new moon in Leo takes up space in your 11th house of hopes, aspirations, and collaboration. Between the lunation and Mercury retrograde, you have a wonderful chance to revisit a dream you once abandoned. It might be something left over from childhood or a whim briefly visited throughout your younger adulthood. Regardless of what it might be, this dream could become the greatest chapter of your life yet over the next 6 months. Be open to working with others and seeing what your community can do to help you actualize your aspirations. You've got this. Scorpio. Again, one of the other signs that are most affected by this new moon and Mercury retrograde. This new moon is rising in one of the most important and public-facing areas of your chart. So it is challenging you to step into your power and be willing to play the role of the authority. Imposter syndrome could start rearing its ugly head, and you might be triggered by vulnerable memories or suddenly start believing long outdated beliefs that you're somehow not enough. But it's time to start a new narrative, one that truly reflects your growth, confidence, and well-earned expertise. The new moon's strongest aspect is an intense opposition with your mysterious ruling planet Pluto, the cosmic lord of the underworld. So expect to do some deep dives into the vault of your own psyche. What limiting beliefs are keeping you small when it comes to your career path? Why do you question whether or not you deserve success? Dig into your insecurities and begin a new journey without them. Sagittarius. Easy does it, Sag. Focus on the path at hand when the new moon in Leo fixates on your 9th house of higher education, travel, and spirituality. Your Jupiterian personality typically likes to go big or go home. While this can lead to extraordinary experiences, it might cause you to feel overwhelmed when you bite off more than you can chew. The lunar energy encourages you to do one thing at a time, such as getting your degree, publishing your work, or moving away. Pursuing one path at a time will help you maximize your experience before moving on to the next. Take this as your sign to enjoy the journey instead of worrying about reaching the destination. Capricorn. Go into business with someone you trust. Consider your options, since the new moon in Leo will stabilize your 8th house of assets, debts, and investments. Someone may come forward with a business proposal over the next 6 months. It might perfectly align with your professional and financial goals. However, mixing your work life with your personal life is tricky, since there's such a strong potential for the lines to become blurred. You might also be hesitant if you have heard horror stories of getting professionally and financially involved in a personal connection. But you may find that working with someone you know personally is the best gamble you could take. So just as a little bit of a side note from a Capricorn, I think Capricorns are actually really good at separating and compartmentalizing home and work. So just a side note on that. At least for me, that's the case. At least I think so. All right, Aquarius. So Aquarius, again, one of the signs most affected by the moon and by Mercury retrograde. So this new moon is lighting up your relationship zone, encouraging you to develop more confidence when it comes to building meaningful connections with others. This is a beautiful time to take a step forward in a partnership, whether romantic or platonic, because the universe is putting the ball in your court. Follow your heart when it comes to making decisions interpersonally, and trust your ability to gauge what's best for your closest bonds. Right now, your confidence is growing in other ways too, because you're developing a clearer idea of what your own needs are, which will shape how you show up for others. As the new moon faces off with mysterious Pluto in your sign, you're feeling the pull of transformation, beckoning you toward a more real and raw version of yourself. Stop molding yourself to fit other people's idea of who you should be. And finally, Pisces. Set the intention to have the best day every day. Your life will be so much brighter after the new moon in Leo awakens your sixth house of mundane activities, well-being, and routine. The 6-month lunar cycle will help you make realistic yet positive lifestyle changes. It might begin with adjusting your attitude, but truly it can start with whatever you want to fix first. Ask yourself if you can remove any negative or unproductive influences. Once you let go of these issues, it will be so much easier to create better habits that have a positive impact on your routine. Over time, your health and happiness will reflect the life you're actively choosing to live. So just remember, for each of those signs, anything that was communicated for each of those is valid for your sun sign, rising sign, and moon sign. So don't just go by what your sun sign is. Know what your other signs are and take that into consideration as well, because that also affects you. And when you're taking all this into consideration, as you're setting your intentions, I think it might make sense to, again, because it's Mercury retrograde, actually stop, reflect, and review what it is you really want and set your intentions on that. And remember that, over the course of the last month, we had all this emotional stuff come up and kind of pushing us in a certain direction. And now with this fire energy in Leo, we truly can make things go forward in a way that we need them to, and use that with your view to setting your intentions. And I think that is it for this new moon.